Hi, everyone. My dear colleagues in Norway, it's my great pleasure to be a keynote speaker for your national conference about kindergarten education. To be honest, I do wish I could be there with you because when Elaine discusses uh, a schedule with me last year, we purposely tried to provide a wonderful working schedule for all the Chinese delegation at the same time, since at that time we plan to invite our colleagues in the practical world, not only from the academic world. So we will join together at that time, we think. But because of the pandemic, so it's a new normal for all of us now. So to be honest, I hope all of you are safe and strong. And I think it's quite important for us to have such a new technology a style to work together across the borders. I think at the same time that all of us could still share our knowledge together. And thank you for all of us. Now, in the next part, I would love to share the Chinese research in terms of the research practice partnership for quality improvement in early childhood. I will share two case studies from contemporary China. So here are the outline. I would love to focus on four, and the last one, we will focus on critical reflection and prospects. The first thing I would like to share our understanding about what and why research practice partnership, we call it RPPS. And what do RPPS mean in Chinese context, since we have our own traditions? And in the next part, I would share two case studies with two different roadmaps. And at the same time, I invite a teaching researcher from a kindergarten, and Jingyi, she was my graduate student, and she also visits Norway, be a part of an exchange program when she was a graduate student, like a connection between China and Norway. So I think that will be a great idea for all of us, our participants, to understand how such a kind of research practice work, not only to produce some products, but also to train and to also to increase the human capital, social capital at the same time. And then the last part, I will provide some critical reflections and based on very personal experiences. First thing, what and why RPPs? It's a concept from the United States. Research practice partnerships means long-term first, not 1 day, 1 year, long-term, maybe 3 or 5 or 7 or 9. In terms of the research literature, I read RPP to about 9 years. So it's such a long term. And second means mutually beneficial cooperations between educational researchers and practitioners. You might experience some research program that the researchers like me might collect data, for example, like provide some interview or might recruit some participant to finish a survey. But to be honest, that might not be relevant in your context. And such kind of cooperation promission strategy had three main goals. First, produce a more relevant research. Just like I said before, we might collect surveys, we might do like some interviews, but we traditionally, we report all our research findings in an academically journal way, not the journals you might read, but in these RPPs, we committed to producing more relevant research. That means that relevance might also apply to your context. Second, improving the use of research evidence in decision making. What does it mean? In China now, we had a very hot concept now. We are saying that evidence-based research. What do you mean evidence? It's also a word from the United States. Evidence means need to be scientifically based. Traditionally, or the majority of them are quantitative, not qualitative way. But now we try to use mixed method way to produce research evidence. So in RPPs, actually we try to use evidence-based research result and try to figure out how to use it in the practical world, especially in the decision making. And third, we want to engage both researchers and practitioners to tackle problems of practice. To be honest, now in China, in terms of we are trying to provide universal ECE for all, but we did have difficulties in terms of provide universal, we call it to increase the accessibility, affordability, safety, and high quality ECE for all, especially for the vulnerable groups in the mega city like Beijing. For example, for the migrant children, and for children with disabilities or something like that. So we really need to have some good research to help us to do that. And secondly, at the district level, RPPs has been regarded as a new strategy for educational improvement. To be honest, RPP is not an innovative approach in educational sector. That methodology has been used a lot in healthcare sector. For example, how to provide the best practice in terms of the community-based healthcare, something like that. And along these years, in educational sector, people are trying to use this methodology to really make evidence practice work in different regions. And at the same time, RPP have been regarded as a bridge to narrow the gap between research and practice and really predicting what we were locally. I would love to highlight the word locally because as I said before, that evidence-based research highly recommend to use RCT. We call it a random trial, a random control trial. That is the golden standards for healthcare science, for medicine. But to be honest, RCT try to provide universal knowledge, but provide little basis for local knowledge. In this way, RPP could be a really good methodology to help us to try to figure out what we were locally. For example, something might work in Norway, but might not apply to the Chinese context. It doesn't matter. We just need to understand what really were inside and what kind of conditions for things were in China. And for the last part, since we are still in the pandemic now we also try to focus on the immediate and long-term actions, and for the educational research could take to support public health and educational institutions dealing with the pandemic. For example, now in the kindergartens in China, we more focus on how children focus on washing their hands more times a day. In a world, RPP is a very useful methodology, not only work in the healthcare sector, but now try to provide more impact in the educational sector, not only work in the United States, but in China. We have our own context to implant the RPPs in our educational sector because, to be honest, in China, we have long traditions in intentional, formalized joint efforts between agencies that primarily administer education. As you might know, provincial, municipal educational agents. In China, we call it educational bureaus, but also with local educational agencies and schools. But also we work with the primarily we call it the research education institutions. For example, the Normal University, my home university, Beijing Normal University, and also with the teaching researchers on different levels. For example, we had teaching researchers in the municipal level, a provincial level, municipal level, county and district level, and also in the school level. In China, we call it 5 levels of teaching researchers. The majority of them are head teachers, master teachers, have very senior experience in education. And at the same time, they train to be researchers, focus on the practice primary. And secondary, based on the researcher literature you might read before. So the teaching research group or teaching research office have been regarded as one of the key insights and lessons for the high-ranking education system in the world. Since PISA 2009 and 2012, Shanghai as the top 1 region in the world, I would love to share 2 case studies for all of our participants from Norway. The first one is a top-down roadmap from Haidian District. Haidian District located in Beijing Municipality, and we work together since 2018. We try to take it on deeper learning and effective pedagogy in ECE. Actually, in Chinese educational reform, the top level governments and also the teaching researchers are eager to learn the top 1 in the world, for example, like the United States. So deeper learning, actually a concept from the United States, from California, and we try to learn that word because now we are in a very technology highly based world for deeper learning. So we cannot have a superficial learning to have our child for the future oriented competition. So this is why Haidian has such kind of project. And in this project actually initiated by MOE Ministry of Education, try to support different local districts to do how to implement deeper learning in the real classroom. And this project got support from the local district. That means we had such kind of funding to do that. That means Haidian will pay the teaching researcher, and we work together to create some products for the whole school district. And in this way, we focus on easily quality improvement through, we call it participatory approaches. You might heard of PAR. We call it participatory action research. That means the researchers, teaching researchers, and also the practitioners in the classroom, we work together to discuss our research problem, what we have faced now, and then we will learn some evidence-based research. We will read the researcher review and figure out some plans we want to work together, and then we will implement our actions, and then we will review and evaluate. And in the end, we will try to set up some kind of training program for the whole district, and then to improve quality in the whole school district. Because in Haidian, they have over 1,000 kindergartens in the school district. But for us, we might only to work with 25 top kindergartens together, and then we will pay like school visits every month to different kind of kindergarten to provide, we call it the place-based mentoring program. So in this way, I try to provide a top-down roadmap for our colleagues in Norway. First, for the BNU, I work in the Faculty of Education. We need to structuring a partnership between Haidian District and the institution, and then we will develop a joint research agenda. To some extent, we will make some kind of agreement in China. The research funding from the school district are highly recommended now because we want to do the evidence-based research now. So we will sign some kind of contract together, and then we'll need to develop like the data sharing agreement Yes, definitely we will collect the data for from children, and also we'll mainly focus on teachers. And also we will collect the data in terms of what kind of result we had. And now, this week, I'm working very closely with the teaching researchers in Haidian district. We try to roll up a series of journal articles for the practitioners. It's kind of very famous journal in China, but mainly audience are practitioners. We try to set up some kind of like a joint publication together, but not for the research world, for the practical world, to try to introduce what we had done together. And then we will try to commune and engage all the key stakeholders. For example, like in Haidian, we need to recruit, for example, what I talked before, teaching research in the district level. In Haidian, they only had 8 full-time teaching researchers in the district level. But in every kindergarten, especially in the public kindergarten, they had at least one teaching researcher on site. We need to work together, and then we will include the head teachers in the classroom. In China, we had the top-down system. For example, we call it district level headmaster and school level head teacher. So that means they will get special training opportunity and also special subsidies from the kindergarten and also from the municipal level. So that means they get additional pay for they need to provide, we call it the demonstration practice for the whole kindergarten or for the whole school district. And then we need to use the research. For example, we focus on the deeper learning. So we've tried to read literature from the California. Well, mainly the job mainly done by the researchers like me. And then they will read the Chinese literature, focus on the deeper learning in primary and secondary schools. And then as a teaching teacher, they will need to set up some kind of workshops with the head teachers. And also we call it the pilot kindergarten together to discuss what the researcher tells us. For example, what does it mean deeper learning? How to support deeper learning in the classroom. So we set up the small project. One of my graduate students just finished her master's thesis, talk about how to support deeper learning through teacher leadership. So we try to provide some training for teacher leadership. So you could see the next step about staffing, for example, who will be the main participants based on their experience and also their views. And then we will provide some training. For me, I provide training for the key participants, but also online training for the whole school district. And the teaching researchers will provide training by some like workshops for the demonstration kindergartens and also the key master teachers. And then we try to provide some funding for the partnership work. And my funding will from the district level. And also the district will provide some kind of like subsidize or funding for the individual kindergartens. The most interesting part that I got in this project, it's so different from what I had done before, because traditionally as a researcher in one of the top universities in China, we are encouraged to publish the top journal articles in some of the most prestigious journals in the world, not only in Chinese, but also in English. But now we are encouraged to work with the local district closely to implement, we call it evidence-based research. So in this way, RPPs could support all of us, try to provide some, we call it next-stage training programs to scale up the best practice. For example, you could see, we call it the next-stage model. The inner side, we call it children's perspective. That means the master teachers in the classroom are encouraged to provide scenarios, video clips, or learning stories to describe what would be look like for children engaging in deeper learning. And in the outer circle, the teaching researchers in the kindergarten level and also the vice principal are encouraged to provide material to justify their best practice to support the classroom teachers to do the creation, innovations. And the outer circle, we call it the teaching research group in the district level, working closely with the with the researcher from the university, provide on-site training, and also provide the research evidence to keep going, to move with the school district. So in this way, we work together for the school district level RPPs. And how about another bottom-up level? We call it a bottom-up roadmap. What does mean the bottom-up? This is the second case. We try to discuss how to build up, we call it pedagogically strong approach to EC for sustainability in Shenzhen's kindergartens. So we try to work with the teaching researchers in the kindergarten level, and that will offer insights into how individual researchers cultivate and contribute to equitable partnership. So since year 2016, and educators and researchers from BNU and practitioners from Shenzhen number 3 kindergartens, we have been working together integrating ECE for sustainability and also PBL. And also it's my great honor to invite Miss Xu Jingyi. She was my graduate student, but now work in Shenzhen number 3 kindergarten. And we working together with the master teachers in the kindergarten level and create some interesting story for our Norwegian college to understand how to do RPPs in the kindergarten level. Okay, Jingyi, it's your time. Are you ready now?
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to meet you through this online meeting, and I hope you all go well and stay safe, of course. My name is Jinyi Xu, and I'm the teaching researcher in Shenzhen number 3 kindergarten. And I would like to thank my supervisor, Professor Li, for inviting me to share some experiences about research, practice, partnerships, or quality improvement in early childhood education. First, I'd like to talk about my role as a teaching researcher in the kindergarten. I'm not sure if there are teaching researchers in Norway too, but in Shenzhen, in many kindergartens, we have at least one teaching researcher in the kindergarten. Usually, they need to have a master's degree, and my job consists of two parts. On one hand, I need to constantly communicate with the teachers, discuss and solve the problems encountered in practice together. And in that case, we can help each other connect practice with theory. And on the other hand, if we meet some problems that we cannot solve, then I will collect the problems and send the problems to Professor Li. And we will discuss the problems through online meeting every month, or she will come to our kindergarten once or twice a year. So I think that's a kind of cooperation between the kindergarten and with a professor in the university. And as a teaching researcher, my role is to build a bridge between the kindergarten and then the professor in the university. For example, our kindergarten is trying to incorporate education for sustainable development into the curriculum in the kindergarten. But there is very little practice of ESD in Chinese kindergartens. So we do not have much experience to learn from others in China, other areas. So for the theory of the sustainable development education, It can only be obtained through a small number of translated books. A lot of books are in English, so the teachers in the kindergarten, they can't read because not all the teachers, they have the background for good at English. So we need the professor to give us some supports. So that's how we work together. And within our efforts, so we have already do some project-based learning cases now, and we are going to we're very happy that we are going to publish this PBL cases in books so that other teachers or other professor or master students, they are interested in this the ESD, so we can talk and we can discuss about our cases. Yeah, so that's all. Thank you.
And thank you, Jingyi. Then I will share with all of you what we have done in terms of EC for sustainability. So in this case, we try to combine PBL, project-based learning, for EC for sustainability. So here are some projects we did together. So we would love to share all the video clips with our colleagues from Norway. So definitely you could scan the code and then you could get the video clips. And also we would love to provide some copies for our colleagues in HVL. And thank you, Elaine might help us to leave copies for that. So you could have a look at the PBL for environmental sustainability. And also you could have a project about the social and cultural sustainability. And also we tried to do some interesting PBL for economic sustainability. You might be interested in how the kids understand robots and how to understand the express delivery in the daily life. So that's all we did with the kindergarten since 2016. And we are quite happy that our book, as Jingyi mentioned, that child-focused and future-oriented demonstration practice of EC for sustainability will be soon published by BNU Press. And one more good news about that in July 2020, this year, this kindergarten got a competitive funding from the Guangdong government, its provincial government, to act as a provincial demonstration to build up a networking with 12 kindergartens to do EC for sustainability in the next 3 years. As for this project, we need to accomplish at least 4 tasks. First, we need to establish a system of EC for sustainability in the kindergarten level. Second, we need to build up a content framework, for example, understanding environmental, sustainability, social and cultural, and also the economic sustainability, 3 pillars. And they had to be independently, or maybe they could interconnect each other. So we are working on that. And we also try to figure out some effective approaches to implement ESD in kindergarten. So you could see we found PBL, but maybe more. So we're trying to do that. And the last part, we're trying to, if we could, we would love to develop some evaluation tools to really understand what we had done. And also we want to also figure out some kind of effective training models to do that. Actually, that project is kind of cooperation between the IPP across the borders, because one of our colleagues from HVL Osta had joined us as the supervisor, like me. So actually, there's 3 supervisors for this kindergarten's program. One is me, the other from the local university, Shenzhen University, and Osta working as an external supervisor. So we really hope to work together, not only inside China, but also across the borders, and to connect China and Norway in this issue. So in terms of RPP, it seems we had the district level cooperation and also individual kindergarten level. But to be honest, RPP as joy work at boundaries definitely need to involve different agencies. So it's promising, but it's also challenging, but very difficult to maintain. For example, you need to have some joy will, joy action. You need to have funding. You also need to figure out some, we call it the vision that you really want to work together. And secondly, well, few research evidence we could get in education. So it's time for more focused research effort on the process and outcome of RPP. And to be honest, I think how to implement, for example, how to implement the multi-tier system of support of ECE, not only critical in China, but also important in Norway. We do hope different regions could work together and really figure out what will work locally, as we said before, even though we might share a similar concept like deeper learning in the United States and China, ECE for sustainability in China and Norway. And this is what we had done in China. Thank you again for your time. And as the Queen said, we will meet again. And I would like to say that we will have fun again. And better days will return when we unite as one during the pandemic. Thank you again. And thank you again for Eileen to invite me to join this wonderful conference. Thank you.